Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Welcome to another 2023 Project Orchids video. Now this is plant number 7, so there's only one left after this, and this wasn't actually voted for. It came in 9th out of the 8th, but with the demise of the Vanda, I needed something to replace it, so the 9th voted for plant became the 8th and to take the place. Otherwise we wouldn't have had this one. Now this is it's a good project as a project orchid. It is a project. It's needs revitalising because, mistake or not, I let all of the new growths push out the side of the pot and bloom, and that has really stressed and weakened the plant. Now the oldest part in the plant here, of the plant in the centre here, is a waste of time. So the idea is we're going to rejuvenate this into smallish pieces and put them all in the same pot and see if we can get it to grow on this year with some reasonable sized bulbs. These old bulbs are probably not going to plump up, they're too soft. And then the idea would be to put these pieces in a pot, get them to grow on. So the project is to see how we can recover a plant that's almost gone over, basically. All of the new growths have lost the ability to root. They're out the side of the pot. So let's get it out of the pot. These types of Miltonias are strange because they can be vigorous growers, but they can also just not do very well one season when they were doing okay the previous couple. They just sort of need bringing back. There's a rock in the bottom there. Most of the bottom of this is media with no roots in. This is a shallow rooter, which is why it was put in a flat, a flat shallow pot. It's going back in the same pot, but not as it is. It's got to be separated right out. And the best thing to do is separate the pieces now so that I'm not messing with roots that I'm not going to keep. Now I'm going to just take them off like this. So I've gone back. There won't be many old roots. Now, do we carry on? For those of you that have never seen it, that is Fusarium. Yeah? See the purple ring around the outside? So this now has to be treated with a fungicide, and it also means that if it's got too far into the plant, it might not make it. But we can try and treat it, so it's now even more of a project, because it's not only a... Chances are that is why it hasn't been growing very well, and it might be too far gone, but we can but try. So and that will explain a lot. So I wondered why this plant had just sort of stopped growing, really. It just lost all its strength. So we've got a piece there. Getting the sheaths out of the way as best I can. This one has got an eye for a new growth, so there's a potential for a new growth there. There's probably there's one on this side as well. So that's what I'm doing. That's the pieces I'm sort of looking for. Right, next one. It'll be throughout the whole plant, I expect. Now, under normal circumstances, this just ought to be thrown out, really. It doesn't look as bad in this piece, but it's probably in the whole plant. But we will see what we can do. As I said, I've had several that have had this fungus. It's not a virus, it's a fungus. And that purple ring is the spores, and they get in the waterways that stop the nutrients and the water flowing through the plant, specifically and particularly at the rhizome stage. So it stops the nutrients getting into the plant, basically, by holding them back in the rhizome. It's a nasty piece of work. Some orchids can live with it for years and years and years and not show any signs of weakness or anything. And others go down really quickly and they go right down. You know, they actually fail miserably. It's a strange one. So there's another piece, same again, you know, the old bulb, the new growths and the new eyes. 2. I don't know how many there's going to be. A few. That piece has got hardly any signs. You have to wonder, did this plant come to me with it? You see what I mean? Or has it caught it here? It is possible it caught it here. I do share water. But I've never known that actually happen. Nearly all the plants I've had that I've found with you usually find Fusarium when you repot. So if you get a plant in and you don't repot it for a year because it's in reasonable media, you don't know you've got it. It's not until you cut into the rhizome that you can see it. You can see the symptoms, you can see the weakened growth, because that's what happens. It stalls the growth, it stunts the plant. And worst case scenario, it will actually kill the plant. So I forgot to clean the roots off. Just forgot to get the old bits off. It's only bark, it's not the end of the world. So that's 3. And that leaves 1. And this one has actually got 3 new growths, not 2. So this is a larger piece, basically. Oh, that's quite pink, that one. Right, all this out of the way. So every single one of these shoots bloomed, except this one. That was the only one. Everything else bloomed. So even though it might be a weakened plant, see now that's got quite a good new growth coming. So it hasn't, the disease hasn't stopped it growing, and that growth there has got 2 new growths coming. But it could stop them growing. As I said, it depends how far into the plant it's actually got. And that's you know, that is a dependent thing. You just have to wait and see. But I've got fungicide. I will treat it, and then we will plant it up. And it's going to go in a, it'll go in a rescue media now, which that's not what it was going to get originally when I walked out here, but it is now. So I'm just taking old bits off, sheaths, old flower spikes, all that sort of stuff. Right. Right, so those are my pieces. I'll have a clear up and I'll be back. We'll get it potted up, and then we can monitor the progress through the year. And what I might do is at the end of the year, if it does grow on and the new growths push on quite strong and push new roots out, what we might do at the end of the year is sacrifice a piece and cut the rhizome of this year's new growth, which we haven't got yet, and just have a look and see if it's got the pink in it. Because it is possible that if I treat it, it stops it where it is. The new growth can grow out of it and grow clean. That's how you effectively cure. Well, it's not cure, you kill it off and stop it working. And it needs a good systemic fungicide. It's no good mucking about spraying stuff on the outside of the plant. It lives inside the plant. It has to be systemic. And you have to repeat the treatment as per instructions. If it says repeat every 10 days for 3 treatments, then do it. Don't miss it, don't leave it longer, do it as it says. And you stand a much better chance of the plant recovering. And I've got several items that have managed to recover and grow on, and when I repotted them after a couple of years, cut the old bits off, pink, cut the next bit off, clean. So it can be done. And we'll see what we can do with this one. I'll be back. Right, let's see what we can do. The spraying needs to be done outside, Now, before you all start, oh, what about the wildlife, what about the bees? First of all, there's hardly any bees around, it's still winter, it's still too cold. And I always spray over a bit of a shrubbery, and there are no flowers, so there are no bees. And nothing else that I would need to worry about. There's no seeds there, so birds aren't pecking around. It's just an area where the spray just gets washed down by the rain, as and when we get some. I'm supposed to be having rain this afternoon, but it hasn't happened yet. A dirty finger. Well, cinnamon finger. And now, of course, we want apple pie, don't we? Some water in there, I can rinse that off. And we're putting a clean pair of jeans on to go to Wisley tomorrow. So I can wipe my hands in my jeans, or dry my hands. Now I've got a lot of moss. Cleaned the pot up, not having any crocking. I'm going to use up whatever's in here. This is the remainder of the various mixes we've been doing lately. And that gives me a base. Not much, but some. And then on top of that I'm going to add a lot more perlite. As I said, this is a recovery repotting now, so we want everything that's conducive to producing roots, and the perlite's very good at that. A lot of people actually plant plants in perlite, nothing else, to get the roots going, and then, you know, transplant them into something a bit more substantial later on. So that's the base, and then in there is going to be a lot of moss, and I mean a lot. Very heavy on the moss, and I've saved some of the moss there to go around the top of the plant. So this is what we're working with. Put that in the bottom, that's the loose stuff, and we start piling this in. And these plants are going in deep. They're very shallow rooted, yeah, so they can sit right in the pot, and in theory they might not need staking. That's my hope. Right, let's see what we can do then. I'm not worried about the new growths having enough room. That's not the important bit. They will push themselves up against the side of the pot and produce roots if it's going to grow. So all I'm interested in doing now is getting these somewhere in there where hopefully there's enough room to grow a bit, but I'm not worrying too much about that. So they've all got room now, and now what we do is we get another lot of heavy on the moss and just drape it around the top of the plants. So I will have to lift them up individually to drop the moss down so that it sits up against them, and any new roots that come out go into the area that's heavy on the moss. That is their sort of media, basically. That's what's around the plants. And the plants now are just sitting in it, on it, in it, slightly in it, on it, perched. Yeah, the other reason I'm not spraying them today is it's late in the day, and the thermostat on the heater is going to be turned down soon, so the amount of airflow in here drops off. And tomorrow I'm out all day, so these won't actually get sprayed until Saturday now, and that'll be fine. And to the last one now. Right, so all of those pieces are now sort of sat in the middle. The middle hasn't got any media. I'm just going to put some bark in the middle, not moss. The moss type media, the heavy on the moss, is what they're sitting in, and that's where the roots will come, and hopefully the moss will encourage that process. But the Fusarium will be trying to stop that process, so there's a fight to go on now to see who wins. But the fungicide will do an awful lot of helping. As I said, I have treated plants before and they've recovered completely. Eventually, as I say, all you do is stop it spreading really. You can't get rid of it. I'm just going to drop some media in the centre, just so that those rhizomes aren't exposed. There we go, that'll do. Right, so that is it. That is our plant. That's what we've got. And it may or may not grow. But it's got a much better chance of growing now in that media than it had before. And as I said, we've got leaves. So I can get systemic right down into this plant via the leaves. You spray the rhizomes, you spray the bulbs and soak the top of the pot. So okay, we haven't got much of a root system here, but the small amount of roots there are, they soak it up as well. You've got to get as much of it into the plant as you possibly can. Right, so there we go. So that is a plant that is totally different to any of the other project orchids. Well, first of all, it's a Miltonia, none of the others are, but it's in a state, yeah? And it replaces the Vanda, which did actually, that was voted in but died, so it never made it as a project orchid. This was voted 9th, so it comes up to position number 8 to take the place of the one we lost. Now all we can do is hope. Now I'll put the same label back in, even though it just says Miltonia hybrid. But we're not going to mistake that plant for any other plants because of what it looks like, how it's been potted and where I'm going to put it. So we will come back to it in 2 months' time and see what progress we've got, if any. I suspect we will have some new shoots by then. It's 8 or 9 weeks' time. I suspect we will have some new growth showing. Whether we get substantial root systems as well, that only remains to be seen. So there we go. Thanks for dropping by, and this was filmed on Thursday. I will post it on Friday, first thing in the morning before I go to Wisley, because if I leave it till when I come home it's going to be quite late. So I'll put it up first thing tomorrow morning. That's UK time, obviously. And see you next time. No videos tomorrow, Friday, apart from this one, which I will post. And then Saturday, hopefully I'll get something together from the film that I've taken at Wisley in some shape or form. Probably the first thing will be, what did I come home with? We shall see. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.